Today, we're going to be talking about, well, number one, give a quick intro. So, Grid is meant to be a network and a mastermind across the nation. There's about 16,000 members and 75 or 30, I don't even know the number of chapters. There's one per city around the nation, and it's meant to be geared for traditional real estate individuals to start learning about the investment space. As you know, real estate is very there's a lot to it, right? So just being a residential real estate and being on one side of the transaction, whether you're a buyer or seller, is not even 10% of the scope of what real estate really is. Everything's real estate. This building is real estate. Hotels are real estate. There's endless supply of real estate perspectives. So today we're going to talk about one of the investment fundamentals, which is wholesaling. So my name is Eric Perez. I'm a host with Veronica Figueroa, who's not here, but is host of this as well. And this is one of my partners and team members on the Figueroa team, Tom Guest, who's been doing investments for way longer than I've been doing real estate. So he's more of the professional than I am. So I brought him up here to help me out today. So we're gonna go through a couple slides to get it going. So Tom, introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, everybody hear me?
Yep.
Hey, my name's Tom Guest. I started off in real estate actually as a wholesaler, and I got my real estate license last year to help add to my business because I was fed up of giving all my referrals when my cash offers didn't make sense over to other realtors. So I was able to pick up a commission on the ones where I couldn't pick up an assignment fee. I've been wholesaling since late 2017, early 2018. I've done over 50, 60, 70 deals. I've done multiple six-figure deals, and I'm here hopefully to show you guys how you guys can do the same.
And so the reason why we bring an expert for every subject that we talk on is that when you guys do stumble upon some of these opportunities, now you know someone to go to that can help you out. That's the entire idea going forward. So today we already did the intros. Oh wait, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a tax expert. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy with a microphone and a PowerPoint slide. So take it as you will. Do your own research. Have to say that more than you know for legality purposes, but this disclaimer is here and all of you guys have read it. Thank you. All right. All right, cool. So wholesaling. It's interesting, right? I'll speak on this and you can elaborate. You're not effectively buying or selling the house, you're selling the rights to buy or sell the house, right? Through assignment, but you're selling the rights. So you are not necessarily the buyer or the seller. You're getting a good deal. You're locking it down is the term that they say, which means putting it under contract, really what it means. And then you're selling the right to that deal. So there's no ownership of the property. There's no money down. There's no financial, I would say, entanglement with the contract or with the actual property, but with the rights of the contract. So you can elaborate on that for sure.
Yeah. So when you're wholesaling a property, you're acting as the buyer. You're connecting with the homeowner themselves, direct to seller. You put the property under contract for a price that you feel makes sense. And then you assign your contract to another investor who wants to actually close on the deal. And they're going to step into your shoes and close the deal in the terms that you negotiated in the contract.
Which is why we talk about it being the first step in the investment space, because you don't need any money. You don't need a dollar. You need a contract, which you can find on the internet. Tom has a really good one that locks it down for 2 months, which is a little aggressive, but it's a good contract. And that's all you need. Then you act as the acquisition person, you act as the buyer, and then you go and dispo it to another investor who is technically the actual buyer. So you become like the medium or the conduit to the deal. The advantages and the challenges associated with that are, number one, here's some challenges. You got to go direct to seller, to direct to the consumer. So if you're an agent in real estate and you're not great at prospecting online inquiries, it's a harder pill to swallow to have a conversation with the seller about buying their home at a discounted rate. It's a much harder pill to swallow. But the hardest part of the process is the conversation. You get over that hump, you get over the fear of the phones, mean, this guy dials at least, he's a 50, his minimum is 50 a day, even on the weekends. You have to make those constant attempts to find the individuals who are willing to have that pain. That's the hardest part about it, is being able to convince someone to give you their home at a discounted rate so you can go resell it to another investor that's going to buy it for you. That's the hardest part, right? But that is a pretty hard part. And I mean, tell us your experience on that a little bit.
Sure. So my first experiences in getting into wholesaling was cold calling. I probably made over 200,000-300,000 calls in my time, probably actually a lot more than that. Oftentimes I'm getting rejected, I'm getting cussed out, I'm getting told to never call me again, I'm getting threatened with attorneys and stuff like that. And I actually mixed that with door knocking. And I used to door knock foreclosures of all of them. When everybody thinks investing, they all think I need to go find myself a foreclosure. It's pretty scary door knocking people that are already avoiding the banks. They're avoiding every phone call. You know, I've been door knocking in Pine Hills. I've been door knocking in all sorts of areas where I shouldn't have been. But I also made buku money by door knocking those people. I've made great relationships with people, and I've helped people out of some really bad situations by getting face to face with them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't avoid you at that point, right?
No, yeah, when I'm stood there at their door and I've got an accent like this, people want to listen to me.
They're like, what did you say? Say it again. It's fake, guys. The accent's completely bullshit.
Yeah, I'm actually from New Jersey.
So, a quick, and there's some numbers on the board. Just want to give you guys some insight to it. So, some insight to it. So, for example, another part of wholesaling that's important, or any real estate, is actually knowing the value of a property, right? You can't make a legitimate offer or lock down a wholesale contract if you don't know the value of it, because what you get it on assignment for and what it's worth, that spread in between are your margins, right? All your margins. For example, if you know a home is worth $100,000 after renovations, right? And an investor would buy it for maybe 60, 70 grand because they have to put another 20,000 into it, then sell it for 100,000, right? You may want to lock down that contract for $50,000 to $55,000 so you can sell it to an investor for 60,000 so they can renovate it for 30,000 so they can sell it for 100,000. So understanding your endpoint or the ARV, after renovation value, you need to know that number finite and be familiar with your market and your place to understand what your original offer can be. Because if the house is worth $100,000 ARV and it's beat up, of course the seller is going to give it to you for $95,000 on a wholesale contract. You'll never get that dispo. You'll never get it. There's no spread to be made. There's no room for renovations or improvements. So it's really important to know that end number first, so what it's worth on a traditional market prior to you even making that initial offer.
Sure, yeah, and I actually have a formula for you guys. If you want to write it down, take notes, it's up to you. In this market that we're working in right now, investors are buying at 70 cents on the dollar. So you take the ARV, times it by 70%, minus the amount of renovations or rehab it needs. And then you also need to minus how much money you would like to make out of the deal. So if it's $100,000, you need to get 70%, which is $70,000. If it needs $20,000 of repair, so you now need to bring it down to 50,000. If you want to make 5,000, you need to be locking that up at $45,000.
Good.
Can you say that again?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So it's the ARV, it's the after repair value.
Actually, there's a formula. It's actually up here.
Okay.
Put it in the slide. So
He's already got it.
yeah, ARV, after repair value. So that means, like, for example, a home that's livable. Like, you don't need to change anything in the house. It's 100% ready to move in. So your after repair value at 70 cents, 0.7, which exactly he said, minus the renovation costs, right? So if the house is worth 100,000, okay, so 70% of 100,000 is 70,000, but it costs 20,000 to renovate. Now it's at 50,000. So your spread's going to be in between. You know, like he said, you have to offer $50,000 for the house because it's only worth 100 grand in its best condition, right? And it's not at its best condition. So you have to find that path in between what that best condition is. And that can be 20, 30, 40, 50. It really depends how beat up the house is, right? But just from an estimate, we'll say it's 20,000. right? So if the house is worth 100 and you know there's repair values right there, right? So take away 20,000. So the most an investor can buy for is, let's say 80, right? They don't want it at 80, they want it at 70%. So they'll buy it at 70,000, know they can renovate it and be in 90,000, right? 20,000, then they can put it on the market and make $10,000 on it at 100,000. But you're on the back end behind that. So you need to find your spread before that. So that's why he said, if you know that's the case, and you need to lock it down for $45,000, $50,000, and that difference is the money you make on the assignment fee, which would be like $5,000 in this case. So,
And.
Does that mean that we have to pay for that house? First?
100,000 with a realtor. And
correct,
then there's realtor fees.
correct.
Right.
That's why he got his license.
That's a part, that's
So
a part.
they're not gonna make the 10,000 that way.
Right, so a lot of the times, investors, if any of you have worked with investors, that's great. But a lot of the investors I work with use flat fee listing services and put it on the market for $1,000. Because the house that they've done all the renovations to, and it looks nice and pretty, it doesn't really need a realtor to sell it. In this market, slightly different. I mean, we're obviously coming out of a crazy bull run where the properties were selling in a day, 2 days. It's starting to change a little bit more. Investors are starting to work with real estate agents on the back end. But that's a part of why they need it at 70 cents on the dollar, because that's where the numbers come into it.
Okay. Thank you.
And the number one marketing tactic to sell a listing is the price. Period. Staging, whatever, that all helps. But if your house is overpriced, it's not going to sell, especially in the market. Which is why it's safe to be a wholesaler, because you're not actually getting stuck with the property. You're just making some money on the medium aspect of it and moving on to the next deal. So, is it legal? Yes, it's legal. Assignment contracts or wholesale contracts are a little bit different than your standard Florida bar contracts, but you're selling the rights, right? And you have what is like called equitable interest in the property. You're not buying it or selling it, so it's 100% legal to do it. There's even a concept called daisy chaining, where, for example, I get the wholesale deal at a great price. I don't know who to sell it to, but Tom does. So Tom wholesales, writes another assignment contract against my contract, so he gets the rights to my contract, which has the rights to the house, right? And then he'll go find the investor. We both make assignment fees on it, right? Because it's just the rights to a contract, guys, not the rights to a property, it's the rights of a contract. So if you think about it holistically and conceptually, it's not like, oh, the risk is very minimized in that, right? It's very minimized. Once it expires. And I mean, you know that better than anybody.
Sure, yeah, I've also actually been a part of deals where typically I start in acquisitions. I believe that if you have the deal, you have the power, you have the control. There are a lot of agents out there or a lot of wholesalers out there that only work with buyers, and they're called dispositions. I've actually locked up deals and sold it to somebody like, yeah, I've got a buyer. Turns out they didn't have a buyer. They went to another dispositions agent who said they had a buyer, and they didn't have it, and they went to another one. And there was actually 4 people between me and the end buyer, and we all ended up making between us over $30,000-$40,000 because they ended up selling it off to a hedge fund.
Wow.
It doesn't actually matter how many people are in the middle, as long as everybody in the middle is happy with how much money they make, and the end buyer is happy with how much money they're paying for the property.
And the end buyer could be a lot of things. For example, if your end buyer is a fix and flipper, they're going to be aggressive with a down pricing because they have to fix and flip it. If your end buyer is someone who has a rental portfolio, they'll buy it near market value because they just know they need to get it rented. And it's a 10-year goal. A fixer flipper is looking at a 6 to 8 month time frame maximum to get it back on the market and sold. So it's like if you think about some of these companies like Home Partners of, I like to use Home Partners of America and Open Door as 2 comparisons so people understand those products well. Home Partners of America will buy a house at market value because they're just going to put a renter in there for the next 10 years. Open Door will not, because their job is to fix it up a little bit and put it back on the market. So the spread in the margin of the end buyer is really going to dictate the amount of money you can make in the in-between process of, in the wholesaling process of the home.
Sure, yeah. And if you guys want to write this one down, one of my favorite hedge funds to work with is Amherst. AMHERST. They're great. They work with wholesalers, they work with agents, and they pay a pretty penny for properties because they're just adding it into their portfolio of 10, 15,000 properties. they're not planning on trying to make a quick profit on it. They're trying to make 7 to 10% returns over the next 10, 15 years.
And they're betting on appreciation in real estate, right? As
Absolutely.
real estate, you know, it's the only asset that doesn't go to zero and typically goes up if you zoom out in a macro perspective. So if you're going to someone who's holding for long term, you can get close to maximum price or even over if they want it that bad. So that's awesome. And Harris is very good, and that's a great dispo company to use if you have a good deal. The next question that's typically asked: do you need a license to do this? He just told you he did it for 6 years without one. So obviously the answer to that is no. You don't need a license to do it. You do need to understand the process, right? You need to understand how to write the contract and, you know, put the things in correctly. And license or not, you need to understand what that home is valued at. You can't just wake up one day, start calling people and start making just the worst offers ever, which some people do, but you really want to study the market and learn how to do comps from a general perspective and in depth in terms of understanding what renovation costs really are as well. And that is fluctuating. There's no static thing I can tell you on how much it costs to reno a house. Depends on labor market, depends on material market. There's no static way on what a house is worth. Depends on the general market, which is tied to interest rates and treasury bonds and inventory and so many variable factors, right? That you can learn in a lot of different ways, right? But it's more about being educated and being adapt to that market. So I always recommend people when they start investing, try looking in your own neighborhood first. Try looking where you're vested in what you know, everything around that area to give you the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. You wanna know what the house is going to be worth after it's been fixed up. If not, when you're making these calls or you're knocking on people's doors, you're the one that's in control of the homeowner. You're the one having those difficult conversations with them to get them out of the pain that they're in. Now, when you've just locked it up for $20,000, $30,000 more and you get 25 days down the line and you still don't have a buyer for it because they're all telling you that it's too high, I'm not paying this price. Now you're the one that's got to go back to the homeowner and go, I'm sorry, I kind of offered 30, 40,000 too much for your home. So now I need to be at this price. And now it's up to you how you handle that situation. If you handle it tactfully, you can actually get the homeowner to come down in price and make it work. But if not, it's a very difficult situation and you can make yourself look a little bit silly by offering $30,000, $40,000 too much for a property.
And if that's the case, you're probably the 100th person that called them anyway. So you're really going to lose consumer trust and most likely the deal. Next question, where do I find buyers? Just call us. We'll find a buyer for your wholesale contract. It's that simple. The grid network is large. There's a Facebook group. If you're in the group, you'll see deals put there all the time. You'll see everybody's dispoing in that group. It's over 15,000 people that are trying to get those houses sold all over the nation. So if you do come across a wholesale contract, you're in negotiations. If you want to help with pricing, comps, you can reach out to us at any time or anybody else in the network to help you out. And then if you have the contract, it's priced correctly and it's locked out, you know what to sell to, you can also give us a call and the grid network is here to help you out to get that dispo. He just gave you Amherst, so that's a pretty good one there. But there's also local investors that understand the market more. That will definitely be willing to scoop your property up pretty aggressively if it's priced right.
Yeah, plus also if there's anywhere within Central Florida, I'm sure you guys know Central Florida, from St. Pete Beach all the way to Daytona, Ocala, down to the bottom of Polk County. You got two buyers right here. We buy properties.
Yep.
You have your names and numbers up on the.
Yeah, we'll give you all that information after the fact. You can find out where I live if you want. The next question is, Tom, do I have to buy the property if it fails to perform?
Absolutely not. No, if you're using the right contract and you make sure you follow all the timelines in the contract, you can back out pretty much anytime within your inspection period. Anybody here who's a licensed real estate agent, you know that you have inspection periods. Otherwise you lose your escrow. However, some of us, I've been in the business a little bit longer. I've had contracts drawn up by attorneys. The FAR bar is what, 12 pages to write up for a buyer? My contract is 2 pages. Very simple. There's no legal mumbo jumbo in there. It was wrote up by an attorney, but it actually allows me to back out all the way up until the minute before closing and receive all my escrow back. It's a pretty handy contract to have. I have wholesale properties using the FAR bar. If you know how to write up those contracts, it's pretty easy. If not, if you need any help, feel free to reach out. But with the far buy, you are held to higher standards and there are more timelines that you need to meet.
Yeah. 100%. Thank you. Let me ask you this, Tom, how do I get paid?
So instead of picking up a commission, we don't get commissions when we're wholesaling because it's off market. There's no broker involved. If you're not real estate licensed, you are not allowed to get a commission. So what we do is we get an assignment fee. You lock a property up for $100,000. You sell your contract or your equitable interest to another buyer that wants to buy it at say 110,000. You pick up that 10,000 between the 100,000 and the 10,000. Very, very simple, very easy. You don't have to go to any brokers. You don't have to pay any splits. What you see is what you get between the contracts.
Now, that's because it's off the MLS primarily. If it goes on the MLS and the traditional deal goes through, obviously, please take the deal to your broker or you will be in trouble.
Yes.
Do you get that like once you assign the contract, they're just like, here's 10 grand, or is it actually?
No, it's once the investor closes and the property is actually fully closed, you get funded like a real estate agent, you get funded at closing. And if you're working with a great title company, they'll have it wired to your bank account within a couple of minutes.
Wow, okay.
Just like picking up a commission, you get wired after closing. It's the same with assignment.
I'm sure these folks probably do that.
Yeah, when New Door does that too, yeah.
How do you deal with escrow when you don't find a buyer within the 30 days or whatever period?
Sure. So if you have a contract like mine, a lot of people look down on my contracts, but it protects me in every way possible. When I'm buying real estate, I'm the one that needs to be protected. The way you, sorry, what was your question?
So if
Protect
the
escrow.
contract calls for a $2,000 escrow or whatever, and you're promising the seller that, and you have, it's been 30 days or it's been 2 weeks, and you haven't been able to find a buyer,
Mhm.
how do you deal with funding?
Sure. So
Timelines.
the best answer I can give you is I don't put down escrow on my deals. Escrow only ever becomes an issue with a homeowner that's in desperate need to sell their home as if you bring escrow up. Most people don't even know about escrow.
Escrow would be a liability in a wholesale opportunity, and that's like, if you can for sure get it done, you're investing your own money effectively, because you are buying the rights to that home at that point. So I've never done a wholesale deal where I put down $1.
Right.
Unless I actually purchased the property and kept it for a long period of time.
Right. I have put escrow down. Again, it comes down to following your timelines. Make sure that you're canceling within your due diligence period. Make sure your contract has written in there somewhere that you get to get your escrow back. And then another thing is, if you have a great relationship and you start doing a lot of deals with your title company, a lot of title companies will allow you to not put escrow down. Because if anybody here is in real estate or has ever done a transaction before, how many times has your seller, not you, how many times has your seller called into the title company and asked for an escrow receipt? Doesn't happen because homeowners that aren't in the business don't know about escrow receipts. So title companies are willing to play the line with you and understand that, hey, as long as you back out in the right amount of time, as long as your contract, like mine, allows me to back out whenever I please and get my escrow back, you're protected.
So the key will be finding a title company to work with.
No, the key would be writing the right contract.
The key is right.
And following the timelines. Title companies are relevant.
Yeah.
If you are outside of your periods of getting your escrow back based on the contract, you lost your money. That's it.
And the danger is if your title company does allow you to do that, but you still miss your escrow deadline, you are still liable for that escrow.
100%.
Yeah.
And next question, Tom, how much money do you need to start wholesaling?
Nothing. There's two things. It's either going to cost you money or it's going to cost you time. As you start doing deals from a new wholesaler and you start building up your cash because you start doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 deals, you can do it free for door knocking. That's where I started. I advise everybody to go door knocking. It's really easy. You learn more about the business. You learn more about talking to people, and you can find out who's in foreclosure. Specifically, if we're in Orange County, there's a website on My Orange Clerk where you can go and find every property that's in foreclosure.
In pre-foreclosure, right? They have scheduled auction dates?
Yeah, the auction calendar here in Orange County goes all the way up to all the properties that have been scheduled for auction up to 3 months out. So you can go find a property right now that's going to auction in the middle of February and go backwards from there, go door knocking on every single door. And because it's on the auction calendar, it's actually with the county, you can go into the dockets and see how much they owe. So you can walk
Correct.
into the conversation knowing how much they owe. You can do your research, find out how much the property's worth, and then you can start your negotiations from there. It's pretty easy.
What was that site again?
It's myorangeclerk.com. But if you actually just go on Google and search Orange County foreclosure calendar, I believe it's the first one that comes up.
In the past, I've used VAs, right, to basically locate, I went to Prop Screen, got the list. For the people, the liens for the water and taxes, et cetera, right? And we did all right. I'm from up north, so just.
I can hear.
So we're doing okay. Is that coming back? You know, is that, because that was kind of, I met
Are
somebody.
they calling? What are they doing, your VAs? Calling, SMS? How are they outreaching?
They go to Pop Screen.
Yeah.
They get the list, and then they start calling, right? You want to sell your property, you text them, and then once you get it there, we had a sales manager.
Yep.
Who'll take it from there,
I've just,
and then, you know, underwrite the contract, underwrite all that stuff. I met somebody that they were closing, supposedly, you know, I remember 20 deals a week.
Sure.
She had 20 VAs out calling. And she was selling to hedge funds. She wasn't even selling it. I'm just wondering if that is that coming back. I stopped because it was.
I think it's never went away. I think the markets that we were in weren't really providing investors with a lot of space to grow during the COVID market, which is like why he got his license. It's just taken to like, cause you could sell a half put together house on the market in 2021 and someone would buy it. So I think it was not that it didn't work, there just wasn't space for it in the market. You have to play how the market allows you. Now the opportunities are back. Those that stuck through it are going to foresee that opportunity come. But he actually schooled me on this the other day. Like if you can't close deals through SMS and texting, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. So the only disadvantage when using VAs is that, you know, they're not the best at that. So it becomes a skill-based market, which we're going into. But of course, the model that works is the one you commit to ultimately. So I know a lot of people that do VAs or will have very, very good success. Depends how deep you go into that process and what tools you use too.
We found out it was scalable, because the other part is like, I mean, when you do want, it's not scalable. That's the issue that we have.
So, right. And then also, how good's your acquisitions manager or your sales manager? Because if their job is to throw shit against the wall, they're throwing shit against the wall and you got bad deals.
We have to go through a few.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's not that the model doesn't work. It's how well is it optimized? How is it capable? Do you have the right people? It definitely works. I mean, you know, we have in-house ISAs for our real estate team, but I know real estate teams that are bigger than ours that I use all overseas. They have success with it too, but it's a wheel. It's consistent. It's like how deep you want to go into that model. How committed are you to doing that? So it's a different question of whether it works. It does work.
Do you get short sales out of that as well?
You can. I mean, that market's not really here yet, right? So once again, short sales, foreclosures, you know, REOs, like that's all market dependent. It's not necessarily whether or not, if the quantity is low, your conversion rate will be low because there's not that many, it's success over trials, right? There's so many attempts you can do at that. So I think it's what he said in the pre-auction, pre-foreclosure, that is because they have that need that they're about to lose their house, they're at the tipping end, right? So you could do the whole prop string thing, you could do that too, but I mean, that data is in your database and everybody else is in this room. So, I mean, you really just have to find what works for you and your market.
I got the last question.
Yes.
Why? The AI, you seen that happening? I mean, is it anything
Yes.
we could
Yeah.
apply that's
Yeah.
real?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's happening.
very
I'm in a lot of Facebook groups with investors. Did everybody hear the question?
Artificial intelligence.
He asked if AI, artificial intelligence, has everybody seen the new chat GPT?
Yep.
Everybody seen all that stuff that's happening?
Yep.
I'm already working with a couple of friends that make apps. That's what they do. They're technology based, and they've already started integrating chat GPT with their apps. So you get on the phone with someone, hey, are you looking to sell your home? And you're not actually talking to someone, you're talking to a computer.
100%. Yeah.
Yes, that's coming. It's taken over. A lot of cold callers are going to
Even-
lose their business very soon.
A lot. They're going to lose their business soon. And also designers, artists, graphic designers, like there's AI for that. You type in, I want to see Santa riding a bull. All of a sudden Santa's riding a bull. Right? So AI is definitely going to change the way we do business. That's a whole nother discussion. So let's get off of that as soon as possible. Yeah, right.
As it is right now, do you feel that, like specifically in our market, when people are cold calling like pre-foreclosures, that these people are getting inundated, just like for Saturday owners and expires?
Absolutely, yeah. People have been getting, people that are in pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, any type of pain point, they've been getting cold calls since the 1980s.
Yeah.
Cold calling has been here and it's not going away. It's the easiest way. I mean, door knocking's great, you get face to face with people, but realistically, how many doors can you knock in a day?
Sure.
It's not scalable.
Even if you're not in pre-foreclosure or foreclosure, I mean, I'm getting a ton of calls
Mhm.
from people asking me to sell my house. I said, sure, I'll sell it for $1 million.
Right.
Well, there's also people that look at your equity perspective. So if you have high equity in your house, they're trying to get you to cash that out.
Exactly.
So it's very like, there's a lot of different tactics, a lot of ways you can go down it. But primarily, well, investors are problem solvers, they're solution oriented. So it doesn't make sense for you to sell to an investor until you run into one of those scenarios. You need that money instantly.
And you guys use the, like, subject to?
Yeah, creative
Yeah.
financing for sure.
That's the
We have a whole nother lesson on that.
Yeah.
Come to grid, come next month. Just keep on coming.
that's the way the market's going. He asked if people are buying subject to. Everybody understand what subject to is? Yeah, it's when you take over somebody's mortgage and you start making the payments instead of buying the house from them, you take over the mortgage. Subject to and owner financing, we are in the season of skill.
Yep.
And that's the way the market's going right now. A lot of people, it doesn't make sense, or maybe they just can't get the cash that they wanted for their home. So you can structure something a little bit more creatively, you using sub to or owner financing. And that's absolutely the way the market is heading. If you don't understand creative financing, you need to get on YouTube and start learning it, because that's the way things are going.
Yeah, there's a lot of constraints with that as well, even when you get into a property, because you're basically buying it overpriced. But you're not getting your credit checked, you're not putting much money down. There's a lot of advantages to it, but then you are, you know, quote unquote, handcuffed to that property for a long period of time. And there might be balloon payments in the deals. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. So that's a very high, I would say, skill caliber investor that's willing to do that, because you need to focus on property management, because the only way for the investor to make money on it is to have a lot of sub two properties together and then have a rental portfolio to where that's making the net income month over month, because you're buying the property too much. You can't just resell it, right? If the house is worth 350, you might buy it 375, 400, because you know the rental income will be there month over month, but you're in that house and you took over that mortgage. So that's your responsibility now. So I don't encourage people to do that unless they've been, you know, have some depth in the game to do so.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the way the market is shifting.
Yeah,
primarily.
that's very high level stuff. Wholesaling, what we're teaching you today, wholesaling, for me, I class it as the bottom rung of the ladder. That's where it's the entry level. You get to learn how to comp properties, how to make cash offers, how to make repairs, how much repairs are going to cost. They're the main things that you need to know. Learning how to structure the deal when it comes to creative, that's a few more rungs up the ladder.
You know, because you don't want to strike a bad deal in that way.
Yeah.
You know, because you typically, like I said, you're buying the house overpriced, or that's why, right? It's, and especially with I'm just gonna stop, but the market slips. A lot of people lost value on their houses, so they want what it was worth 4 or 5 months ago. A lot of sub two guys will give you that, right? But once again, you got to have a renter in there immediately. You have to keep that place rented. You need to have your portfolio. You know, most rental portfolios need only 75 to 80% occupancy. If you're sub two, you need as close to 100% as humanly possible to make money, or one of your properties is dinging you capital every month. So just remember that it becomes a different game. It becomes a little bit more aggressive of a game after the fact. But let me ask you a question. We got to get through these. Do I need to understand the renovation costs, ARV, or soft costs for a project to wholesale it?
Absolutely, yeah. You need to be able to understand how much repairs are going to cost. Otherwise, you're going to be making your initial offer is going to be too high. Hey, there's no initial offer that's too low, right? But if you're not understanding, if you walk into a house and it's a complete renovation and you go, yeah, this will cost me 20,000, doesn't happen anymore. You're going to be too high on your offer. A lot of full renovations are 60, 70, $80,000 these days, because obviously what happened through COVID, materials went up, labor went up. Now it's even hard to find contractors to do the job and to do it well.
Right.
So it's important to understand how much that contractor or how much the handyman is going to charge you to fix the kitchen, how to change the roof, how much an AC system is going to cost. If the house needs plumbing, how much is that going to cost you? How long are these things going to take? Also, you need to understand if your investor that you're selling it to is financing the property through something like hard money, you need to be able to work out the cost of how much it's going to cost them for holding the property for 6 months.
Correct.
So you do need to understand how much the property is going to be worth from the ARV. You need to understand how much repairs are going to be. And that also means when you go to the property to take pictures of the place, you need to have a good look at it. You're not just walking in and go, oh yeah, this looks good. You're looking for every problem because the investor is going to look for every problem and they're going to have to fix every problem.
And so the timeline, if you don't, then you go through the inspection period and then your buyer backs out because you do a good job of disclosing some of those things. It all affects the price as well. Yes.
So on the renovation cost, so some investors, they'll call me and say, they'll try to the listing agent first, and then if that doesn't work out for them, they'll call me, and that one specifically. And he just says, write the offer, put it out there, and then he sends the inspector like the right thing to go out there. So half the time I'm not seeing the property, but I'm always left wondering how you're determining what the cost of renovation is, because that could change, 6 months ago, it's different than what it is now. So how do you keep them updated?
Sure. Did everybody get the question? How do you work out what renovations, what house needs without actually seeing it? So I bought a lot of properties and locked up a lot of properties virtually without ever seeing the property. It is possible. So you have base levels A, B, and C, or a low level rehab, maybe it just needs lipstick. A medium rehab, maybe it needs a kitchen as well. Maybe you need to redo the bathrooms. And then you have a high level rehab, which you need to change the roof, you need to change the AC, you need to do some plumbing, you need to do some electric. Maybe take the whole property back to the studs. So for a low level, I go off of a base of $35 a square foot. Medium level, $45 a square foot, and a high level at $55 a square foot. Now that's not going to be exact. And obviously you may class a medium, you may throw an AC in there, but it doesn't need any of the other main components on the home. So that's just a base level of what I go from. Always you want to be a bit more conservative. If you're not sure if it's a medium, price it out as a high. We can, if it works out like that, hey, you made more money on your deal. But I that's where I go with $35, $45, and $55 a square foot.
Tom, how do I handle settlement?
Me closing?
Yeah, that's a question.
Okay.
Because you already kind of explained it though, but.
Sure. So a great title company. We have one here, New Door Title. They should know how to handle your wholesale deals, and our title company here does know how to handle those deals. A lot of people these days call them investor-friendly title companies. You can search them out. And that's just a title company that understands how these work. A lot of the time, I've worked with non-investor friendly title companies, and they've blown my whole deal up by telling the seller exactly what I was doing. And so the seller's like, hang on a minute, you're not the one buying it. You're making $20,000 on it. Like, this doesn't make sense. Tell me what's going on. And now that puts me in a bad light. So having a great relationship with your title company, letting them know what you're doing, letting them know what you're trying to achieve. And the title company, once you put it under contract, you send your contracts over to the title company do everything else for you.
Should I pull title on the property?
Yes, you need to be getting your title company to pull title, because a lot of investors won't touch a property that doesn't have a marketable title. If it's not clean, or if there's liens on the property, especially if there's liens on the property, we need to be factoring that into the price. So yes, you need to make sure that it does have a clean title that can be sold.
What do you use to pull title, the title search?
The title company.
The title company.
You have to instruct them to do so.
And how much do they charge you?
Normally for me, because I've done so many deals,
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Is there a third party title search company that?
I don't know of any. I'm sure in this
You
day
need to
and
have a
age-
title agent license to do so. So unless you're a registered title agent, you can't do it. That's why they work at title companies. Yeah. The Title Box is one of the good companies, a third party that does searches, but once again, it can only be initiated by a licensed agent with an insurance line for escrow. So you, the title company will have to do it for you. That's it, guys. Do you have any other questions? We answered a lot on the way, so that's awesome. Ryan?
So just going back to the math on repairs, so, if I'm understanding this correctly. So people online, all right, so just so I understand repairs, so if you look at a house that. I don't know, I'm gonna say like 2,000 square feet, and you say it needs light repairs at $35 a square, so your ballpark estimate is that for light repairs in a 2,000 square foot house, 70 grand. I mean, that's 2,000 times 35.
Right.
And so if it's worth 3, you're saying, well, it's gonna cost 70 grand to fix this place, we gotta make some money. That could be $200,000 for the property, or however the scripting is that you do it, but that's kind of how you do the math there.
Yeah,
Depends on what needs to be fixed. So
dependent.
I mean, I know we're talking like general.
yeah, that's a very generalized approach. 2,000 times 35. What if only 500 square feet of it needs to be renovated?
Okay, so you are getting a little bit more granular, where it's like, okay, everything is good, but it needs floors and some fixtures and things like that. You're gonna, I mean, you're gonna kind of.
Right, and then this also comes back into knowing your numbers as to what things are gonna cost. Like you say, you use floors as an example. I use $3 a square foot, so if it's $2,000, I'm expecting to change all the floors for $6,000. If it needs a new AC system, anywhere between 5 and 8 grand. And then I'll sit there, a new kitchen, depending on where you're at. If you're in Winter Park, a new kitchen could be 20, 30 grand. If you're in Pine Hills, you can do it for 10, 15 grand. So knowing those things individually will absolutely help. There's been plenty of times when I've had properties that I'm working with and I've sat there and I've gone, okay, AC, this much, floor, this much, kitchen, roof. And then I'll tally it up at the end. I'm like, okay, well, it needs between $50,000 and $70,000. So that's where my offer now needs to be down here.
Got it. Okay, cool, thanks.
How do we plug into your system? How can we work together?
Sure. Keep coming to Grid. Yeah, get my phone number. Call me whenever you need me, text me, email me, send a pigeon, however you need to get hold of me.
Join the Facebook group if you can. You can follow us on Facebook online.
But, okay. I've been doing this for a little bit. I got people, you got cash buyers, right? You're ready to go.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, we put a system together. You got the cash buyer, you got the escrow company, you got I'm just trying to find what's in your toolbox, right? I want to throw money at it. You say I want to put $100,000 a month. Try to scale up as quickly as I can, like I did up north. So these are the two things that I'm hearing. You got the escrow, you got the buyers, you got contractors.
We can. We have a
Okay, so
list.
you're gonna take over the contractors. So if we got a deal, you can say, you got the knowledge to do a subject to the property.
If it
right?
makes sense, yeah.
So you got all those services. So somebody coming down and just say, we got.
Why don't you stick around after and we'll have an in-depth conversation.
But the reason I'm saying that is for the other people to know,
Yeah.
you don't need to know everything.
Never.
You just give it to them
Correct.
and they'll take it from A to Z and you get paid.
Sure, yeah, absolutely,
Absolutely.
exactly as he said. We are built out, we are ready to go. What I play, the role I enjoy playing and the strongest role that I play is closing the deal. So if any of you guys go, hey, I've got a seller that's interested in selling and they roughly want to be at this price and maybe the rehab's around about this price, give me a call and I'll close the deal for you. Absolutely, and you'll get paid. Yeah, we've got all the systems set in place where we can close the deals for you.
And I mean, even our mortgage company does hard money as well. So we're gonna talk about hard money lending and where to find money in a different session, but we could do basically everything that you need us to do effectively. We're a big residential real estate team, guys, so we have a list of vendors we work with from A to Z. So anything you guys need, just reach out to us. Questions, please reach out to us, and our job is to educate and inform you guys. If we can help you through a deal, that's even better. That's really even better.
What's the name of your Facebook page?
Grid?
Great, Orlando.
No. The group you're sending them to?
Yeah.
You're the national group, right?
Sure, yeah.
So it's just grid.
Just grid.
investor.
Based out of.
Great investors. Yeah, it's based out of Virginia, yeah.
Yes.
It started in DMV, Delaware, Maryland,
It's
Virginia
called the
area.
Grid Investor Community.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Anybody else have any questions that I can help you with, clear up for you, help you understand a bit more?
All right, guys, thank you for coming. Oh, question.
Where do I find leads to start calling?
Ask again.
Where do I find the leads to start calling?
Great question. So you specifically looking to start calling, or are you happy to get out there and start door knocking?
So I think calling will be a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more rough, I guess, but it'll be more efficient just because you can make 50 calls in an hour, maybe
Right.
10 calls over 20,
Sure.
versus 3
Okay,
doors an hour.
so I use a couple of systems. They're paid for systems. There's one called, the gentleman there, said it earlier, called PropStream.
It's a good one.
And PropStream is a good tool, app, website, whatever you want to call it. And they will have pre-made lists for you. They have a pre-foreclosure list. They have a high equity list.
Yeah,
They have tired landlords list. So they're pre-built out for you, and you can just put in the zip code or the county that you want to work in. There's another one that I use. One of my favorite ones is called Batch Leads.
that's a good one too.
And Batch Leads,
Data company.
PropStream and Batch Leads, they are, as Eric just said, they're data companies. So they can analyze how much equity properties have in them. They can give you a likelihood of how much they're looking to sell. And all of the lists on these websites are pain lists, except for the high equity list. Obviously, there's not too much pain in somebody owning their house free and clear. But like I use the foreclosure list because normally if somebody's in foreclosure, they don't want to sell, they have to sell, right? So they're the people that you want to be finding, the people that have pain points, maybe even 2 or 3 pain points. They owe their mortgage, they owe their property taxes, and they have a code violation on their home. There's a really strong feel that those people are going to want to or have to sell their home. So I typically try to put myself in front of people that have to sell, and a lot of the time they needed to sell like a couple of months ago,
Yeah,
because you're always going to get the best deals from those people. The best deals are created, not found. A lot of people walk around going, where do I find a deal? Well, in my 5-year career of finding deals, I've probably actually only found 2. Every other deal I've done I've created the deal. I've helped the seller to see, hey, this doesn't make sense for you to keep owning this property. We need to get you from A to B.
I think your goal is to have a conversation, right? So marketing tactics differ from region, from county, from state. Some people say door knocking doesn't work where they're at. I know people that still use direct mail, right? And spend money in direct mail to get a home evaluation to start the conversation, right? We don't do that here. I would never do direct mail in Florida. There's too many damn houses, too big of a place, but smaller areas, it's viable as well.
How much you paying for the leads?
Depends on how big the list.
1,000.
1,000 leads can cost you up to, well, with PropStream, it's $99 a month. You get 5,000 free leads a month. So to get the lead
The skip trace.
is free. To actually get the address, the name of the person, how much equity they have, that's all actually free. But you have to pay to get their phone numbers, which is called skip tracing.
Have you done the math to see the conversion rate, like the investment on these leads versus how many deals? I mean, you have the personal experience.
Sure, so
What's your conversion rate?
that's going to be different for everybody,
Right.
and it all comes down to how good you are at closing. I've got friends that have never closed a deal, so tell me what their conversion rate is,
Gotcha.
right? So it all comes down to how well you can handle the conversation, how well you can negotiate. There was one point when I had it down to now cold calling, say you cold call 200 people a day, that doesn't mean you got 200 leads.
Right.
Only the people that put their hand up and say, yeah, I'm interested in selling is considered a lead. And I've got a friend that he has his own call center. He's done over 2,000-3,000 wholesale deals. He's got 50 people sat there calling for him. And he runs a metric that each one of those people calling for 8 hours a day should produce 2 leads. That's just 2 leads.
That's not deals, it's leads.
Yeah, that's just out of 8 hours of sitting there calling all day. 2 people have sat there and said, yeah, I'm
I'm
interested.
interested, yeah.
Yeah. So conversion, this is why I say conversion on cold calling is minimal. How many times do you answer cold calls yourself?
Never.
That's why a lot of people then pair the cold call with a SMS text. because they miss the call. 2 minutes later, they get a text like, oh, okay, maybe they leave it, they didn't read it, they come back later when they finish work, then they're like, oh, maybe I'll reply to this guy, even if it's not interested. Then you can ask them another question. Okay, how long is it going to be before you are interested?
You could buy like cash offer inquiry leads are extremely expensive because you're letting somebody else do all the work for you. So, and those a little bit higher converting, but you have to pay for that. Cheapest way, go to PropStream, get them skip trace, get your list, hit the phones.
Skip tracing turns out most places are going to be between 12 and 15 cents a person.
Per person.
So if you go and get 1,000, that's 1,000 times 15 cents.
Right. They get you all the numbers tied to that person. Some of them are still active, some of them are. It's a big effort. It's a big effort game going that route. Yeah.
Mhm.
Last one, with another follow-up on that. So do you personally have any VAs working for you to help the process
Right now,
be easier?
no.
Okay,
I used to have up to 5 VAs working for us.
did it work?
Absolutely, it works. It's a scalable model. But what you will find is in the down months, because let's say you don't close a deal every month. 1 month you close $100,000 worth of assignment fees. Next month you may only get 10 or 15. Your costs don't change. So when you're hiring 5 VAs and you're paying $5,000-6,000 a month, obviously your costs are still going to be there on the months where you don't make any money.
Don't hire VA till you do it yourself.
Absolutely.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a shortcut to spend money, and then you don't even know how to coach them on the conversation. You don't know how to help them when they're stuck. Don't hire a VA unless you do it yourself.
Yeah, you
There's
need
no
to,
shortcuts in success.
you need to be closing. I would advise anybody that's looking to get a cold caller to do these things for them. You need to be proficient on the phone yourself so that you can go through every aspect of the conversation. Hey, I got to this bit on the script and then it all went wrong. This is what you need to do at this bit. Hey, I got to the close. I got them all the way and then I messed up the close. You need to be able to teach them new closing ways for them to get the deal.
Yeah, and also it's like you can't, like VAs are just people, right? We use this term VA, they're just people elsewhere at a cheaper rate, right? So how much you pour and develop into them is how good they're ultimately going to be. But if you're not that good, what are you going to pour into them? I have the conversation all the time. People are trying to band-aid shit with VAs. No, if you don't have a process procedure, a thought out training methodology, they're not going to be that good. You're just throwing your money away. So pick up the phone, do some work yourself, figure out what works best for you, and relay those best practices onto the people that you bring on and develop. It's leadership. That's what it is.
I find, you probably agree, I find a lot of people hire VAs to get away from the pain of doing the work themselves.
That's exactly what they do. It's not for scalability, it's to avoid work.
Yeah.
So
And that's why VA companies are popular, because they'll take your money and then if it didn't work, okay, see you later.
I would advise you, especially wholesaling, real estate in general, but wholesaling is not something you can get into because you like it. It doesn't work. If you just get into it because you like it, if you're getting into it because you like it, you're going to get kicked in the teeth over and over again. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be heartbreaking. It's going to cost you a lot of time or a lot of money. You need to do it because you love it and because you're obsessed with it. When I started, I was obsessed. I was listening to podcasts all day long. I was listening to Bigger Pockets. I was listening to Wholesaling. I was listening to all of these podcasts. I listened to about 300 of them. I was obsessed. And that's the only way you're really going to make it. Anybody else have any other questions? We ready to wrap this up?
Would you be willing to provide your 2-page contract?
I'll share my contract with you guys. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Mhm.
$50.
No, that's okay. You still gotta learn how to use it.
I'll figure out.
Yeah.
We paid a lot of money to a lawyer for
I'll
that. I
take it
remember that.
Yeah, no worries. Get with me afterwards. I'll take your emails down or send me a text message with your emails and I'll get the contracts over to you.
Yeah, if you guys are all on meetup, you'll get some collateral after this, so make sure you stay involved. And come to the next one, guys. We changed the time. It seems to work out a little bit better. We had a nighttime session, not everybody could get to it, but now you guys can come, get motivated knowledge and go get PropStream, start calling it, whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah,
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it, brother.
sir.